Yeah, wow, amazing. So let's wait and see. And another thing is that since I came back from the Ukrainian border, I see the gas prices went up, inflation. And I think, my question is that how many policy makers are able to realize that all these problems were actually, started by the CCP virus manufactured in the Wuhan bioweapon lab run by the Chinese Communist Party. The current economic recession to me is not a regular recession. I think it's preventable. And so how many policy makers are able to make that connection between all the disasters that we're experiencing currently with the Chinese Communist Party?
Remember, it's the Wuhan lab pandemic
Yeah.
that drove this economic crisis to the country. But in addition, it's also Putin going to see Xi during the Olympics and they talked about a new strategic partnership. The entire situation in Ukraine would have never happened if Xi did not tell Putin we are going to totally underwrite it. If they stop buying your oil and gas, we'll buy it. If they block your wheat, we'll buy it. We will take 100%. Or our partners in Persia, in Iran. We will set up with the nations that we're trying to control the Eurasian landmass. We will be the buyers. So don't worry about Ukraine. Go do what you have to do. We don't care if the West cuts you off. Don't care if the West tries to destroy your currency. We're the cover bid. And that to me is the untold story, along with Wuhan. Look, the cowardice of the West is personified about not holding the CCP accountable for Wuhan. For number one, forget the rest of the world. They should just be held accountable for genocide on their own people. There's impossible that those numbers about the deaths are accurate. It's mathematically impossible. And we know this from the current lockdown they have right now. The CCP has not been held accountable by the world, not just for the damage they did throughout the world in every different nation, and all the deaths and all the economic carnage and everything that came from that, the suicides and the mental illness that came from that. Collateral damage. But now in this situation, not only have they been not held for Wuhan, they're not being held for the Ukraine. You're going to have mass famine. What's happening in Sri Lanka right now, Turkey just announced this morning as we started doing the broadcast that food and gas prices are up 70%. You're going to have famine in Turkey. You're going to have famine in the Middle East. You're going to have a famine in India. You're going to have famine in sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America. That's all because the CCP underwrote Putin. Putin had no downside. He could thumb his nose to the West. Nobody talks about it. The Wuhan lab situation and this are inextricably linked. And last, whatever's happening, the great secret out there that nobody can explain is what's happened in China in the last 2 months. How can you lock down 400 million people? And now some of the officials in Shanghai going, well, we never said anybody had to be locked down. But so it's just, my point is that it is going to take the people in these countries, a populist movement, to force your governments to hold the CCP accountable. Why? The governments are in bed with them. The financial institutions are in bed with them. The companies are in bed with them. They're making a lot of, remember, the slave labor of China drives profits all throughout the world. For the corporations, for the financiers of the CCP, and particularly for the CCP, it's the way that they can skim money off the top. The five wealthiest families on earth are not in Saudi Arabia. They're not the king or queen of England. It's not Qatar or UAE or any of the Gulf Emirates. It's the five central families that control the factions of the CCP. It's a mafia type operation. And that is what and look, in the reality of us getting recognized, which I think will happen, particularly with NGOs, remember, we're dealing not against a government, but a mafia type operation. They're going to put mafia power onto everybody that tries to get in business with you. Even saw it in Ukraine. There's a couple of times you guys got up and got hassled. That's because the CCP was telling some of these other parties, go up there and find out what's going on, because you guys presented too well. You all of a sudden, people were starting to talk about you. People were starting to come down and who are these guys, right? When you say new China and new Chinese, what do you mean? And that goes counter narrative to that. Everything in your lives that you guys do every day puts a lie to what the elite in our world have bought off of the Chinese, that the CCP, the Chinese are too undisciplined, they're too ignorant, they're too lazy to govern themselves. So the last great civilization on earth, look, you have democracy in India. You have democracy in Egypt. You have democracy in sub-Saharan Africa. You have democracy in Latin America. You have democracy throughout. It's not perfect. These democracies are not perfect, but they are at least try to be functioning democracies. Why can't the Chinese people govern themselves?
I would like to call it out a racial discrimination against the Chinese people.
I think 100%. There's no doubt. There's
totally.
no doubt. It's no doubt. It's absolutely outrageous. You see that throughout the world, right?
Yeah.
Why? And I say this all the time about Ukraine.
Yeah.
What happened in Ukraine? What did CCP do in Hong Kong?
Yeah.
Where was the world? All these great crocodile tears are being shed in Ukraine. And let me leave that aside. What's happened, what the Russian military has done in Ukraine is horrible.
Yeah.
I don't defend that at all. What I do is defend the West for misleading the Ukrainian people. But they also misled the Hong Kong people.
Yeah.
Unlike Ukraine, Ukraine is not an ally to the United States. It's just not. It's not an ally to NATO. It's just not. Okay? There's a lot of people who want to be, but it's not. The Chinese people in Hong Kong had a deal of 70 years that the Americans we were guarantors of that.
Yeah.
The British Empire was a guarantor of
Yeah,
that.
it's part of
And
the
everybody looked the other way. 100% it's racial. 100%.
Yeah.
Because it's just the Chinese. And here's the thing: the Chinese know how to take care of themselves. They just got to work it out themselves. No. That doesn't happen anymore. That's the power of the new federal state. The new federal state in every different nation that the diaspora is in.
Yeah.
You guys have become great contributing citizens to those countries.
Yeah.
Right? In democracy, in entrepreneurial capitalism, in solid social structures, and being socially conservative and family oriented.
Yeah.
Okay? It puts to a lie the new federal state, all the farms, everything we're doing in every country in the world puts a lie to that, and I think it's going to finally break. You just got to let the Chinese handle it, because what people say is that's a Chinese problem. They let the Chinese handle it.
No, it's a world problem, because a lot of people in the West, their success and the wealth is dependent on keeping the Chinese Communist Party in power.
100%.
So this is a world problem. I don't know what's going on, but
No.
yeah. So
No, it's a world problem, because
Yeah.
look, that's the fix. The fix that's in is that there's too much money. There's too much money being made on the slave labor allowed by Xing.
Yeah.
As long as we look the other way.
Yeah.
As long as you look the other way, it's going to continue. The way to stop it is to force people and not let it and make them confront it. Make them confront the slave labor of the Chinese people.
Absolutely. So on the occasion of the second anniversary of the new federal state of China, I'd like to call out all the international community, mainstream media, and all the governments to recognize that this is a new birth of the new Chinese Federation that represents the 1.4 billion fellow human beings' freedom and
New China, new Chinese.
Exactly. So regardless, whether or not you recognize us or not, we are existing and we're fighting, and we're not giving up until we win. So I think the recognition is your problem, but we're gonna fight. Yes. Yeah. So thank you so much.
All the different farms, everything. We're not called fellow fighters for nothing.
Yes.
We got to fight and fight on.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you. And I think that many, many years later, the young brothers and sisters and boys and girls, they will remember Mr. Mao Guo and Steve K. Bannon are the founding fathers of the new federal state of China. It's just like how we remember the founding fathers of the America Revolution. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.